Hey, folks, welcome back. This is Lucid, and if you missed the last episode, we won the game with you, and was a bit surprised. It was a kind of weird paced game. It felt like, um, first of all, like Nabatem and I, who were both pretty big, our lands were both pretty desolate. Relay, who was, I guess, kind of big, pop kill. So there was a lot of kind of like death and despair. And then Karnak, I think, also was a slow pop kill and also really hard to invade. So it was this kind of weird situation where there wasn't a ton of like easy, profitable lands to kind of win from war. And then a lot of the wars were grindy and hard, which is kind of how you expect the mid late game to be, because a lot of the kind of better matchups or easier players have been killed off. But yeah, I managed to barely squeak out a throne victory. I definitely wasn't the strongest, I don't think. But that said, I had pretty good Doom stacks that didn't really horribly die. They tended to get in extremely weird fights with Karnanak, which often timed out. But yeah, we ended up taking this Relay and Throne with a pretty cool cave teleporting Throne Rush, which seems like a pretty cool thematic way to win with you. But in this episode, we're going to talk about, I think we'll do a little bit first on just how the game generally went. Quick summary was I quickly rushed Agartha, and then that was the only other cap I got, and I got it on like turn 8. I then got in a failed war with Arcadia, which I ended up getting out of. And then I vultured a tiny bit off the war with Kalem, but not much. I then went through basically a period of slumber where I tried to get some tech. And while I was teching up, I didn't do much except summon, I guess eventually like some U Atlases. And then I got a Foot Factory online with Holy Threes during that time. But by that time I was upkeep constrained, so I couldn't buy any more troops or mages or anything. And then I decided to go to war with Nabatum, and then he destroyed his thrones and killed a bunch of my armies. And rather than push forward and try to be the one to actually conquer Nabatum's cap, I realized exactly how fast the clock was running with Karnanak, and decided I had to go for a throne rush before Karnanak had just like unlimited everything. Because they are just kind of infinitely scaling, so far as I can tell. And so anyway, yeah, then we went for a throne victory where we snuckily took Relay's underwater throne. And that was basically how the game ended. And this is probably the weakest I've ever felt winning a game. Like in some ways it looks impressive because I have a lot of feet, but these feet are fucking worthless. They're just good for nothing. Except very light rating. There was a lot of kind of like sloppy play where I allowed big groups of guys to get like really diseased. I don't know. These aren't super diseased. I have like super diseased armies somewhere. Like a lot of my forts were starving, like this one was starving, so like everybody's diseased. So it was really hard. The feet, I think they eat a little. Do they not eat? Need not eat. Oh, they don't consume supplies. Okay. So I don't even know it was eating all my supplies, but I definitely had a lot of things eating all my supplies. I don't know. I should have done it. There were some things I should have had more bags of wine. Like I had enough nature mages by the end to make them, and gems. But like I would let cities starve. So that's something I need to be way more conscious of. And I think if you're playing you want to be super conscious of armies starving, because I did it all the time, and it ended up being kind of annoying. Having a ton of diseased troops is really bad, and like my mages ended up getting diseased a lot. Some of that was from getting blight spammed at my armies, but a lot of it was just from mismanagement of armies. So there's a lot of sloppy play, and I feel like with this nation I kind of had to doom stack. Like I can light raid with these guys, and I can light raid with the auto kinoses. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a heavy tendency to doom stack, and doom stack is kind of a lazy way to play. But we did it, and it kind of worked. I think the Mew Atlases were really cool. But I do feel like Karnak might have been able to kill me here on this throne. I asked him after the game ended if he thought about it. He said he thought about it, but he thought he had one more turn to do it. So he's spending one more turn to prepare. But that would have been kind of shitty for me. If he did it. The other throne, because some of you might have noticed, I only had 3 in the last time I clicked on the throne thing. This throne I had from Karnanak, I mean not from Karnanak, from Thalamonth, but I hadn't claimed yet. So anyway. But, I mean, looking at it, it was going to be very hard for somebody to take one of my thrones from me. Most of them were pretty well defended by 1 or 2 Mu Atlases with pretty big armies and lots of PD. And then oftentimes with just huge amounts of siege strength stacked up inside a fort. So I think I had some pretty hard to, I don't even know if I can see. The forts are all gone, so I can't show you, but a lot of them had 400 siege defense. So there's that. But I think it was a little grindy. Turns were taking a long time at the end for everybody to do. And I think it just I know poor Arcadia, he was fighting a relay. What do you do? Insanity Dominion, you can never invade them. They're going to attack you with just hordes of stuff. There's no real chance of winning. I guess the only way to win against them is to kill them so decisively that it's worth for them to make peace and then potentially raid underwater some. I mean, raiding underwater, you don't really want to raid with anything of quality into Insanity Dominion. So maybe with golems you can raid underwater, but then golems get wrecked by water elementals. So I don't know. I think for Arcadia it was just super frustrating. So Sakanay, he was playing them, kind of mentally checked out probably 15, 20 turns ago. He was still doing his turns, trying to throw off the relay and hosts, but pretty minimal effort, I'm sure. This war between Nabatem and Thalamonth got to be a bit of a grudge fest, and they ended up on friendly terms, but I think that at times there were words exchanged with each other. But it was very grindy. Nabatem held on a bit at the end, and I think me getting out of that war was extremely good for me because it allowed me to get this throne and basically what I needed to win. And if I stayed in the war, I would have gotten Nabatem, but I'm pretty sure Karnak would have won if I'd stayed in. Karnak was a beast at the end. I'd be interested to know what their income was per turn, but I'm pretty sure it was phenomenal. And I don't even understand Karnak and how it works and how they get the infinite scaling, but I certainly believe they have infinite scaling based on everything I saw. So yeah, I guess we won, but I don't feel like we were the strongest. So anyway, now we're going to talk about the nation and what I would do differently. There's a few things. One is my troops, you can see they didn't really do that much. They won me the first battle against Agartha. They then died basically to Arcadia, but I think my bless was strong enough, scary enough that especially with the PD dump, I'd have been able to have survived maybe an attack from anyone. So that's a hidden value we didn't really get to see. But then my war with Nabatem, they were basically worthless. They couldn't hardly kill anything. They definitely couldn't kill thugs or super combatants. And then in my war with Karnanak, they were basically worthless. And my war with Relay, they were nice, but ultimately they didn't even do that much. It was really my Mu Atlases that carried me. U actually has a fair bit more variety. A lot of the variety comes in with blood. There's some cool stuff they can do. Like having Ill-Earth armies or lots of Eye Tyrants. Eye Tyrants are pretty good. And Eye Tyrants are going to be harder, I think, to counter than some other things. So I don't know. I think if I played this nation again, I would avoid... There's a few things. Because they have the income malice, luck is better. Because your luck events are going to bypass that income malice. And luck 3 is a pretty good income skill to start with. So if I played them again, I would probably want to go luck 3 and growth, and then try to blood hunt. The problem, though, is you get, and I don't know if it says it here, I think you get half the effect of growth, which is fine, I guess, but I think it's still worth going growth. You maybe tank death? I don't think so. I think you need growth. Even if it's half. The income is kind of nice, but it's mostly just so you can blood hunt better. Though you potentially could go death. I don't know. I think that's up to you. But I would play, if I did it again, I think I would try to focus more on... Like, I think you still want a bless. I'm not sure what my bless would be. But if I did it again, I think I would focus more... Like, treat the troops as, like, just enough to get by. Focus more on blood. Focus more on angel eggs. And I mean, I got angel eggs pretty quick, but I don't know. I feel blood and angel eggs are probably the way to go. So, like, maybe even trying a thing with the world egg might have been a good way to go. But even if not the world egg, I still could have gone like a more scales-focused build that could have expanded. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I'd have to test it a lot more. But the only thing I know is that having zero freaking income all game, having these horrible events happening all the time, was not super stoked about. I was too poor. I couldn't get mages. Like couldn't even afford blood mages for the last half of the game, and they're not expensive. They're like 40 gold, but I couldn't afford them. So, yeah, not. I think the income malice is really big on you. Taking that with shit scales, you end up just like, you can't really, if all your troops which you want to put your bless on are going to cost upkeep at least, so you're going to end up paying for them. So that's my major reflection. Is like, on one hand, one of the things that made me really strong this game was rushing Agartha and taking his cap, and then having that earth income and the enchantment bonus. So it's one of the things that made me strong. And I was only able to do that because I took this helpless at the beginning. And I was able to turn it into a win because that ultimately gave me an early Earthblood Deepwell and then a shit ton of Mew Atlases. So there was value in that. But I was kind of like a one-trick pony. And I don't really like being a one-trick pony. I think there's a lot more I could do in blood. And then still doing the angel eggs. But I think basically just more blood. The thing, let's talk about that real quick, because I've said it like 6 times now. Might be surreal aberrations are super good. Spamming them out early, I think, is a thing. That's probably what I'll do in my next game. Shape Illith's also pretty good. These guys are size 6. They're really good. So spamming these guys out would be very, very nice. Dreams of Mew, also pretty good, but I don't have anybody who can cast that for a while. Really, I think it's just... I think really just the Angel Egg, but I'm not sure. Okay, what else? Father Illith would be kind of clutch to have. Gift of Reason, we can do this super cheap, which means potentially there's a play to do too with getting tarts, because you have a lot of Death Gem spam you can get. The Thinking Partisans are really expensive too in terms of upkeep. So while they were really, I think I was actually pretty okay on in terms of research. I was not nearly as horrible as I thought I'd be. But I don't know. It'd be nice to figure out a different solution to them, or than them. I think I would basically completely rethink how I played you if I did it again. But ideally, you get to, I mean, you don't need to get that deep in Earth to get these guys, which are 4-gem Earth Elemental, Illith Elementals, but it doesn't take that long for you to get to 8, and then it basically cuts the cost in half, so you're going to get twice as many of them. And then when you get Eye Tyrants, that's obviously sick. But I'm super not sure. I really don't know what I would do next time I play them. I just know, I think there's a lot more to do than I did do. But I think the keys to playing them well, like, research is super important. You have a lot of things you need to get a lot of research in. The expansion's really tricky. Taking, either you take an expander, right, which is going to fix your expansion, or you take a Hellbless Rush like I did with the Mew Atlas. You potentially could get away with less of a Hellbless Rush. I'm not exactly sure what I would take, but like maybe just Fortitude, because I think we'll go ahead and pull it up. I think you could do. Let's see what we would do. We just tend to do it again. If we did the Mew Atlas, he starts with Earth 2. So we could just do Fortitude. And he could probably expand with just Fortitude, though would be with a fair amount of losses. And then you could easily take pretty good scales. I don't know whether you go productivity. You probably do. Maybe not. You want luck. The drain. Like, I actually don't really want to spread my Dominion that much because it's not that good. You don't really need to recruit Sacreds if you have the Mew Atlas. Like, this is pretty low Dominion, but you could do something like this. And that would be able to expand pretty well. And then you have a pretty useful Bless All game, like spamming out Fortitude's pretty useful. The Blood Bond, I don't know if it's really helpful for expansion. But I don't know. I feel like my troops weren't really that valuable. So I feel like I put all this stuff into a Bless, and then it ended up not making a huge difference. But Fortitude's good. So that's one thing potentially could do. Another thing I might could do. We'll see if we can make it work. Or not make it work, but in one of the last patches for Hellenika, some of the troops, I think the athletes, these guys, they got buffed to have a bit more defense. So it's possible now they could do okay, but not great. Expansion. Now, in productivity, they'll actually have really good stats now. I think they got a 2 defense buff, so like 15. But in productivity, it's obviously going to be way better. So, but even if you take productivity scales, and even if you're expanding in your own Dominion, your Dominion won't have been in provinces long enough for you to really get the bonus. This will be more for like your first war that you'll get the bonus from Sloth Power -1 or Productivity Power. But if you could figure out scales expansion, that's what this build would be, with where we'll get the Angel Egg. And I think the plan for that would be like Arcane Finesse from Mew Atlas Prime. And I think, but I don't know, it may work on Blood Vengeance. Like something like this. And then this is going to be a bit... We don't actually need a ton of... This is not going to be useful for expansion at all. So we definitely need productivity. We probably have to go dormant. That means when we wake up, we get... You kind of don't want your first Angel Egg too early because it's hard to collect them. And like you have to build a lab and all that. So I think dormant's probably the way to do it. We won't be using our Bless at all. This is really expensive. But this also allows you to wish. There's a lot of good things that come with this chassis. Okay. Dominion Spreader 1. The Blood Vengeance here is really expensive. What would I do? Don't want to go imprisoned. Don't want to sack that. Growth. We do want growth. We do unlock. Brain is fine. We can't sack Dominion anymore, really. So I think that would mean like Blood Vengeance is out. But then what do you get? I mean, Unholy Weapons would be okay versus some things, but then mostly not okay versus a lot of things. And Blood Vengeance is so good. I feel like it's one of the better ways to make use of all those feet. And then this is going to be great on your Master and Slave Mu Atlases, and then I mean, that's mostly it. And we could sack this some. No, I think we can get that. Growth isn't super important, so maybe we go growth 1. This would be a much weaker early game. Like, I think you're a rush target if you do this. You're going to be super weak year 1. And once this person comes out, you're not super strong. So, I don't know. I don't think I have a good build figured out. But I would probably do it different. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the series. I feel like it's a crazy nation. It's definitely hurt my brain a bunch to play it. And I honestly cannot believe we won. So thanks everybody who was on the game for playing this Crazy Nation, crazy mod pack with me. And thanks to Aether Nomad who joined us in the game and who made this a wonderful, flavorful, mind-bending mod. And thank you to all of you for watching. Take care.